Hi. Today I'd like us to take a look at a few lights. We're going to start by looking at a Fresnel light. This is a Mole-Richardson Inky. It's 200 watts. It's pretty old. I've probably had this one for about 20 or 25 years. They hold up pretty well, and as you can see, it does still work. Now, the first thing that I'd like to show you about this is the fact that it has a lens here. It's called a Fresnel lens. The Fresnel pattern is these different rings, and the Fresnel basically allows it to focus or flood in a very uniform manner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to aim it at the backdrop, and you can see right now it's spotted. On the back here, there's a knob, and you can see how that's suddenly become a pretty even pattern. Now, one thing that I'm doing that you shouldn't be doing is actually using hands without gloves to hold the light, but I'm not going to have this on for very long, so it's not going to heat up too much. Here you can see it going all the way in to a full spot. You see how much brighter it gets because it's focusing all the energy of the light into that small area. So let's take a little bit of a tour of how the inside of the light works. As I said, you do have this lens here. There's a little release here that allowed me to open up the unit. Now, hopefully you can see that inside here, as I'm turning the focus knob, the entire lamp housing is moving back and forth. Now, this lamp housing has the socket where the bulb goes down here, and this is a twist. You press in and twist. I'm not going to do it. One thing always to remember with these bulbs is you never touch a bulb with your fingers. If you do, you'll get finger oil on the bulb, and basically the bulb will either burn out much faster or potentially explode. So very important not to touch the bulb. When you change a bulb, if you need to change a bulb, you make sure that it's wrapped in clean paper, and your hands are protected from it. And of course, the other thing is, the bulb was on for a few seconds, but the bulb gets very hot. So you don't want to be touching a hot bulb because you would burn your hands. So you have the bulb, you have the lamp housing. You can probably see that here in the back of the lamp housing is actually a reflector. Now, the way this lamp works is that the further back the bulb is, the more spotted the pattern is, and the closer to the lens it is, the more flood or wide pattern it has. And you probably can't see it, but it has these little spiral track things that make it easy to move. Now, as I said, this lamp is probably 20, 25 years old, and I haven't spent a whole lot of time maintaining it, and it still works fine. That's one of the amazing things about these old technology bulbs. You can also probably see, if you look in here, that all you really have in here are a couple wires. They're attached to the lamp to the socket, the porcelain socket for the bulb. So it's very, very simple design. Now I'm going to close this back up and show you how there are these things called scrims. And scrims are basically round pieces of metal that are made to fit right here in the accessory holder. And there are kind of these three arms that hold these. Some of the newer lights have another arm that goes over the top that basically allows you to lock them in. See, if I turn the light upside down, at this point, these would fall out. The red one is referred to as a double scrim, and the green one is a single scrim. Now, if you can see, this is with both in, this is without any. This is just a double, taking it back out. This is just a single. Now, you do that if you want to quickly reduce the intensity of the light without either making it more diffuse or changing the color. There are also these things called half scrims. I don't know if you can see that, that basically just half of this is filled in. So I don't know if you can see how basically it just affected one half or the other half. Now, this is a half double because, as you recall, it's red, so it's a double. Doubles are red. Now, why would you want something like that? Well, when you're shooting straight on, it doesn't make much difference. But let's say that your light is closer to one side than the other. So you can see how it's a lot brighter on the left. So if I drop, I'm going to drop in essentially a half double and a half single on the left, and you can see that that light is a lot more even now. Here, as I take them out, you'll see. So it's a quick and easy way of adjusting the light, the output from the light. This is what's called a barn door. And this is a four-way barn door because it has 4 doors. The way it works is it has little slotted area here, and it gets held by the same little holders that held the scrims. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there actually still is room in here to drop in a couple of scrims if I want to. Now, what does the, that may actually be a little, getting rid of a little too much light. Okay, so what the barn door does is it allows you to quickly limit the light. You see how basically, let's say we want a little very tight slash. Here, I'm going to take the double back out. And you see how quickly we were able to do that. Now, that's just using the large top and bottom doors. Then if you want to, you can actually, you could do something like that. You could put tape across. Now, never use gaffer tape. You would use paper tape on this because gaffer tape would melt, make a terrible mess. But black paper tape, actually, you can put a little pattern. And because of the way the Fresnel lens works, just having something here, as you see, can make a nice pattern, or you can get a nice, a nice pattern pretty close to the light. Now, you probably also noticed this little chain here. I'm going to turn this back off. This chain is called a safety chain, and what you do is, there are different ways you can attach it, but essentially you attach it to the light so that if this gets bumped, and I'm going to have to raise this up for you to see the effect. Well, okay, I should have done it here. So if it gets bumped, the barn doors are safetied, and if this light were, say, hanging up in a grid somewhere, then the light would not fall on someone's head, and the barn door wouldn't fall on their head either. So it's very important to always safety things, make sure that everything is safe whenever you can. So, so that was the quick look at a Fresnel light. So again, remember the big takeaways for Fresnel are that it has a Fresnel lens, the bulb moves forward and back, and it focuses there. One thing I should mention with the Fresnel is that obviously the reflector in the back is light that's used. You know, it means that that's additional light that goes through the lens, and light from the bulb goes straight through the lens. However, all the light that hits elsewhere in the lamp is basically controlled by the housing, and so you're kind of losing that part of the bulb's intensity. So you're basically only using about 40% of the power of the light, of the power that's actually coming out of the bulb. So you're wasting a fair amount of that power. Now, you say, well, you know, that's not really an issue because we get the light that we want, and that's true. But when you think about the fact that that wasted power is all turning into heat, heating this up, and essentially if you have a lot of lights, they're really heating the room up a lot, that starts to become an issue. So we also learned about our half scrims and our full scrims, remembering that red is double and green is single. And another time that you would typically use scrims is when you have someone walking towards a camera and you have a light that's, you know, up in the grid someplace. As they walk towards the light, you put a half scrim in the bottom so that as they're closer to the light, they're less affected. You know, the scrim cuts the amount of light as they get closer, so it makes it for more even light along a walk. The next light I'd like to take a look at, I happen to have a few of these lights handily on the floor. This is another tungsten light. This is a Lowell Omni. Lowell is a company that makes a lot of lights that are used for, you know, lightweight location, documentary type shoots, that type of thing. And this is, instead of being a Fresnel lens light, this is an open face light. Now, you may see that there is a screen here. This is a protective screen. Remember how I mentioned that if you get hand grease, you know, hand oil on a bulb, it could explode. Well, if you have one of these bulbs and it gets hand oil on it and there's nothing in front of it, remember this is an open face light, then if it explodes, this metal, this kind of lightweight scrim, keeps the hot shards of glass from flying out and basically hurting everyone. Now, I'm going to take it off for a second, and before I do, I'm just going to unplug it just to make sure it doesn't go on, so that you can kind of see how this works. In here we have the bulb, as you can see in the center. There's a reflector all around it and behind it. So basically, virtually all of the energy coming out of the light does get transmitted out. You only lose what you lose in terms of the reflectivity of the reflector and what you lose going through this mesh material. In this case, this light, I have a 420 watt bulb in it, and you may see that I'm moving the bulb back and forth. That's how there's a little lever system over here that as I adjust this lever, it focuses the light in and out. Now before I turn it on, I'm going to put this back on. So now we're safe. Now you saw that I unplugged it. Now low lights tend to use these cords that have a specific kind of plug on them here. And they have a switch on the cord. And these look a lot like computer plugs, but they have an extra notch in them, so you can't just plug a computer plug into one of these. So the light itself doesn't have a switch on it, as you probably noticed with the other light as well. It just has this cord, and that powers it. So this is a handle that allows you to hold on to the light. And you can see now our pattern here from the light, this is a very spotted pattern. But you can probably see as I zoom out, as I flood it out, you know, it's not too bad, but the pattern is nowhere near as nice and even as it was with the Fresnel. So that's one of the things with the open-face lights. However, they do put out quite a bit of power. So, so this is quite a bit of light from just 420 watts. As with the Inky, we also do have a set of barn doors. These just slide on, but these aren't designed with a safety built in. So when you use these, I recommend getting some wire, something like that, and safetying the barn doors. They've done a couple of interesting things in their design in order to make it more portable. Hopefully you can see the way this opens up, closes down. So that your barn doors actually expand, and these little ones can become rectangles. So they start as triangles and they become rectangles. But it's not really something that you want to do too much of when they get very hot. And again, all of these lights, being tungsten lights, do get very hot. As I mentioned, there is a handle on this, and this is how it's mounted on the on a tripod. This little adapter here. That one thing that I didn't mention with the Mole, it had a locking nut. I think you might have seen me lock it at one point, but that locking nut on its yoke basically made it very easy to lock the light in a certain position. With this light, you put it on a stand and it just has a certain amount of tension. These tension pieces, the way it's designed, don't last that well, and they don't last forever. So this is going to tend to loosen up at times and so on. So you have to be very careful and aware. The big advantage is that these lights are a lot lighter and they're pretty easy to pack. They pack small, they travel easily. There are also some accessory holders here. This accessory holder allows you to put an umbrella in if you want a softer light. Or if you want to hold a gel, because these get so hot, you normally won't want to put a gel on these barn doors, whereas with the Fresnel, you can usually mount a gel using clothespins on a barn door. With this, they have an accessory holder that holds the gel out about this far. Now, one other aspect is, and I'm just going to make sure we're in flood now. you may be able to see that the shadow from my hand is not quite as distinct as it was with the Fresnel light. That's one of the things about open face lights, that they don't give you as nice a pattern in that respect. So so now we've seen one Fresnel and one open face. What I'd like to do is switch gears completely, and we're going to show you an LED light. Now this one, right now I have some gel on it. It's kind of clunky looking. This is an old design. In this design, I can turn different numbers of banks on or off, and thereby get more or less light. You can see it's not putting out anywhere near as much light as the tungsten units did, but this entire light is only about 50 watts. Now, you saw that the tungsten units are, in terms of color balance, they're around 3200. Now this I have a bunch of gels on because most LEDs tend to be a much bluer color balance. So you also see this little adapter that I have on the back of it. This adapter will actually allow me, if I unplug it, if I unplug the light here, I'd be able to put a battery on here, plug it in, and run it off the battery. So that's something you really cannot do with most tungsten lights, because most tungsten lights, except for sun guns, take up too much power. So these also burn very cool. You can see me actually I'm putting my hand here right on top of the bulbs, and there's no heat coming off at all. I mean, there is maybe the slightest bit of heat, but very little. So they're great in that respect. They're not quite as good in terms of their overall color rendition. So they're not going to give you as rich a color as the tungsten lights will, but given the right circumstances, you can do a lot with these. So so certainly something you want to think about in terms of your overall lighting arsenal. This is the LED light with a battery installed. And as you can see, if it still works just fine. Right now we only have half of it on. So we're able to pack quite a punch from a battery. Now, because this is 50 watts and this is a 50 watt hour battery, that basically means that we can run this for about an hour from this one little battery. So that's that's pretty good. There are a lot of different designs of LEDs, and another one that I'd like to show you, it just happens to be one that we're kind of using right now, we've been using to light the backdrop, is just this little tiny one here. And this is something that can be used as a camera light. Now, this one's been around for a while. It has a problem with a couple of its rows. And yeah, it's ready to go back into the repair shop, which is one thing that you have to worry about with some of the newer technology. But basically, it still gives a pretty nice nice even light. And you know, there's a slot here you can put different gels in, so that, you know, if you want to be tungsten balanced, then you put a you know, tungsten color gel in, and it because it has a fairly large area, it actually gives you a pretty good pretty soft source. It's pretty nice as an on-camera light. I don't know if you can get an idea how soft that is. Maybe I'll steal. There's a more or less tungsten gel, so you can see what it's doing here. It actually can put out quite a bit of light. Now, right now I have this powered off the wall, but it's also possible to put a battery on the back of it and run it off a battery. And I also have adapters so that if I'm using one of the big shoulder mount cameras, I can take the power essentially off the camera battery and plug it right in here and run it off the camera battery. And this unit takes about, I think it's about 14 watts, something like that. So, you know, so that battery would run it for 3.5 hours. It's not, you know, the one thing that you have to consider though, if you're thinking about something like this, is that, you know, none of this is very good in the rain. So if you're looking for something that you can put on the camera and then basically use in all kinds of situations, this may not be your best option. I'm going to put it back down there. So there's a whole other kind of light I'd like to show you also. This is one, actually, in this size, you're not going to see it very often because this is not a very popular size, but I brought one down because it's a lot easier to show you than showing you with one of the bigger ones. And I'm actually, over here I have one of the bigger ones lighting me. This is from a company called Kinaflow, and this is called a Diva light. And the Divas come in different sizes. This is a Diva 200, which just means that there are 2 bulbs. I'm being lit with a Diva 400, which is what most people use. Now, obviously there's a cord. The cord has a switch on it. And it has kind of this weird rig in the back that this goes into into your light stand. And you can see that basically all the weight is kind of in front of it. They also do have an adapter that can go on here to put the whole weight over the stand. So if you get one of these, I recommend getting it's called a Diva offset, and I would recommend that. Now, there's a ball thing here, so you can hang it any which way. So it's not like having a yoke that just works in one direction. It really goes any which way. And then you tighten it with this, and this is one of these things where it's a handle that, you know, you can pull it out to move it to a different position if, you know, if it's not tight enough and you want to get it tighter, or if it's too tight and you want to get it looser, you can adjust that handle. So there's also this area on the back, which is, you know, yeah, sure, it's a good way to pick it up, but that's not really what it's for. This is essentially your fluorescent ballast. So whenever you have a fluorescent light, there's some sort of ballast involved that adjusts the voltage and the frequency, and in this case, this ballast works at a very high frequency so that, you know, you can shoot with all different frame rates and not get flicker. But let's turn the light back on so that you can see a little bit about it. Right now, you can see it was dimmed down. I just dimmed it back up. You can see this grid in front of it. Now, this grid basically directs the light. You can see how that's working. So it's just a light control grid. It's held on right now with a couple Velcro things, and you see as now there's a lot less directionality to the light. And these grids come in different colors. Well, they come in black and silver anyhow, so that essentially the silver gives you a little bit softer light, and the black controls it a little bit more. But I'm going to dim it way down for a moment so we can maybe take a look at the bulbs. I'm also going to move this back thing so you get a better feel for this. Now, that's still a little bright. Okay, that's as low as they dim. The great thing about the fluorescent units like the Diva-Lite is that they use these compact fluorescent lamps, and right now these are tungsten color temperature, but it's possible to swap them out. I'm going to turn this off, and there's a little red button back here. I don't know if you can see it. You press the button in, then you can release. There are 4 pins on the end of the lamp, and then I'm undoing it from this clip here. So you can see the 4 pins, and they go into the 4 slots here, and they click in, and that's how they attach. So I'm taking the 4 pins, putting them here, giving them a click push, and slowly attaching that. Okay, now with these lights, the lights go on in 2s. That's the way the ballast works. So both of these bulbs are going to go on. And you can see, at least hopefully they're not too bright for you to see that they're 2 different colors. And the color coming off now is a lot bluer than it had been. Let's see what happens when I make it bright. You can get a sense of that color difference. And so each of these bulbs is only 55 watts, so this entire lamp is only 110 watts. So with a few Diva-Lites, or other Kinoflows, and a couple of LEDs, and maybe 1 small tungsten light, 1 Fresnel light, or 2 small Fresnel lights to put a couple of details in, you can do a very nice little lighting setup without really worrying too much about blowing power. And blowing power used to be one of the big problems. So, right now, we have a blue bulb and a tungsten bulb. So the blue bulb is around 5,400, tungsten bulb is around 3,000. So what we get when we put both of them on is essentially we get a color temperature of about maybe 4,100 degrees, which happens to be very close to the color temperature of a cool white fluorescent. So if you go into an office, say, and they have all cool white fluorescents in the ceiling, and you're just trying to add a little bit of fill light, and you have both sets of bulbs, then you can basically alternate your bulbs, maybe put a little diffusion on the front so that, to mix them a little better, and you'll get a very good color mix for that. So that's it for looking at lights for today. We'll figure out something else for next time. Hope you enjoyed it.